Grace, peace, and welcome to Podcast of the Wills, a podcast that treats Star Wars like a sacred text. My name is Nick Milkey. It's Sunday night and it's time to hang out and talk Star Wars. It's time to make a drink. It's time to laugh. It's time to relax. We've got a new week coming tomorrow, but let's wrap up this one by having some fun and hanging out. I hope all of y'all are doing well. I'm excited to see everybody. I'm so excited for our guest tonight. We have a really awesome topic, and it's something that he's really passionate about, so that's really exciting to me as well. I've got our live chat going already. We've got folks hanging out. I see Framey. I see David from Father and Son. I see Michael. I see Pete. Who else is here? Matthew's here. Thank y'all so much for taking time on a Sunday night to hang out with us. It means the world to me. I love doing this. I say all the time, and my wife asks me all the time, this podcast, she's like, what if nobody watched? I'd still do it because I love talking about Star Wars. I love hanging out. This community means a lot to me. We've talked about that a lot in recent weeks, and it's just fun. And if, we have this great community, let's hang out. Let's talk about fun stuff. My guest tonight, a lot of you know my guest. If you don't know my guest, you're in for a treat. He is one of the most fun people in the Star Wars podcasting community. He is the co-host of the Bombad Cast. You've heard of the Bombad Cast because several weeks ago we had his co-host Jerry on. Jerry the man joined us. He was actually the first episode when we made a drink. We're going to make a drink again tonight in a few minutes. My guest is also himself a viral internet sensation, which is going to play into our topic tonight. Maybe a couple times. We're going to get into that. He is a YouTube bad boy. I haven't had any. Well, I have had one other YouTube bad boy. It was Jerry. I was a guest on Scotty and Jerry's show about a month or so ago, and we talked about a little thing called Backstroke of the West. We put some clips up while we were watching the show, and the YouTube overlords shut us down. I'm still apologizing to them about that because I just, that show doesn't happen. It doesn't really exist. So we may have to get a do-over. I may beg them to let me back on. So he is a certified YouTube bad boy. And I have also decided, my wife and I are in the process of rewatching Game of Thrones right now. And my guest tonight may also be the man of many faces. He may be Jaqen H'ghar. There are characters. You don't know what you're going to get when you watch the Bombad Cast. There are voices, there are impersonations. So without further ado, I am thrilled to bring on my friend Scotty Jayro from the Bombad Cast.
Nick, that was the best intro ever.
I mean, tell me where the lie is, my friend. Tell me where the lie is.
I'd imagine
there
Paul
are no
Stanley
lies.
has something to say. I don't know.
Paul Stanley, if Paul Stanley was available, your next door neighbor, Paul Stanley.
We'll find out.
If he was available, he would have something to say about that. How are you, my friend?
Dude, I'm doing fantastic. I'm so happy to be here, especially because it's not my normal Bombad or BTBD thing. I can actually sit back and just literally talk to you when you're usually on the show. Oh my God, I'm so happy to be here. You have no idea.
Oh, it is a pleasure for me to have you on. I've watched your show, for a while now, and I'm actually going to make one small apology for the last time.
Okay.
I made this apology when Jerry was on. I made this apology when I was on Around the Galaxy, and we talked about Bombad Cast. And I'm going to make it to you now that you're here, and then we're going to consider the circle now complete.
Perfect.
When I first discovered the Bombad Cast, as an older fella, I looked at the energy that you and Jerry have, and I went, I don't know if I can do that. I am here to say I was completely wrong.
Oh, dude.
I love your show. It's so fun. It's weird in the ways that I am weird, even as an older dad kind of guy. Mm-hmm. Like your commitment to a bit speaks to my soul in a lot of levels. It is, in fact, speaking of committing to bits, our friend Jerry, the Canon Junkie, just chimed in on the live chat. Jerry, brother, we love you. I love your show. I was late to the game. I was wrong. I judged a book by its cover, and I am a strong supporter of the Bombad Cast. I'm here for everything you guys do. Y'all have such a fun show, and I want you to talk about it in a minute. But what I want to do first is make a drink so that we can keep this going. We have, as I have said many times, I'm trying to brand myself as the Stanley Tucci of Star Wars podcasts. Stanley Tucci on Instagram. He has his really well-appointed kitchen. He's making fancy drinks. He's very refined. I am not any of those things. I'm in a corner of my garage talking to my friends. But I'm going to make a fun drink, and I'm going to name it after a guest. So tonight,
here we go.
That's right. And I always try to do it on camera. This bit may have to leave sometime soon because it gets more complicated all the time. I have a glass, and I have a Han Solo glass. Let me get it right here, right way here. I made that choice very intentionally because Han Solo is famous for his jackets. Han is a jacket guy. As you delivered on the hope that I had, members only. I don't know that I've ever actually. There's one occasion, and we'll talk about that during our countdown list. Scotty is always wearing his members only jacket. We're gonna get some gin.
Okay.
At Amsterdam Atmosphere Gin, Stratosphere Gin. Not a sponsor yet, but Stratosphere, call me. I'm ready. Let's go. I'm gonna pour some gin in here. Very scientifically, not using a shot glass. We're going to throw in with our gin and with our ice. Just a spot of grenadine. Okay. I believe was French for cherry juice.
It's funny, Nick reached out to me. He's like, "You got any of these things to make a drink with?" And I looked at him, I was like, "No." But I did work as a bartender for 3 years. I was a mixologist for 3 years, so I know this.
I'm supposed to have some lime. I don't. Okay. So I have lime juice. So we're gonna give a little dash of lime juice, and then we are going to top it off with this is a Kirkland brand LaCroix. You'll notice it's in a very fancy Hollow Chronicles koozie. And because it's Kirkland, Washington, Kelso, Washington, shout out to our friends at Hollow Chronicles. And this drink, hold on, we have a whole banner and everything. This drink is called Scotty's Mustache Jacket.
That's amazing.
My God. Camera. So here we go.
Add some sort of tobacco scent to it. So I can sit there with my pipe and really
refined,
enjoy it.
Very fancy. It's delicious.
Yes.
Cheers to you, my friend. Cheers to hanging out on a Sunday night. And here's what I've decided. Here's what I've decided to add to this whole drink thing going forward. Former guest, friend of the show, friend of your show, Jared the Dark Jedi. Jared is the official bartender of Podcast of the Wills.
Oh, damn right.
When I have bar questions, drink questions, I've sent him messages. Hey, what about this? Hey, whatever. Here's what I've decided to do, and this is gonna prove the weirdness of the internet and where things are gonna go.
Perfect.
If anyone comes into the bar that Jared works at and orders by name any of the drinks that I have featured on this show, I am asking Jared to write down their name and address, and I will send them a prize of some sort.
No way. I love that idea.
It may never happen, but why not? Let's put it out there. So, Jared, you may not be watching tonight. Hopefully, you'll catch us on the rewind. If somebody comes into the bar that Jared the Dark Jedi works at in Western Pennsylvania and orders any of the drinks that have been featured over 8 or 9 weeks of this show, we have the Yoshi what is it? The Generalist and Pineapple?
Yes.
We have the Loralis Trivia Stem from when Laura and Alice were here. We have Jerry Juice, the very classic Jerry Juice. The first
Jerry
one.
Loves Jerry Juice. He does.
Jerry has had Jerry Juice on Force Connect a couple times. It makes me feel good that it's living on.
Yes, he has.
So if somebody comes into the bar that Jared works at, I don't even know what it's called. I don't know where it is. I'm just putting this out there in the world, and we're going to see what happens. The weirdness of the internet.
Yeah.
If somebody goes into the bar that Jared works at and orders by name any of the drinks that we have featured on this show, I'm going to ask him to get their name and address, and I'm going to send them a prize of some sort.
That's incredible. It's going to be one of us. Anyone in the chat?
Great. Bring it on. In fact, Jerry says right here, I'm planning a road trip to Jared's bar as we speak.
He's not
also like this. Michael said there will be a whole menu of Podcast of the Wills drinks at the next celebration.
Let's do it. That'd be amazing.
And I think Jared offered on Around the Galaxy that he was going to bartend and host a party at Celebration. So we're going to talk. We're going to make a thing out of this. So that's Scotty's Mustache Jacket. I think the reasons why are very clear. The members only jacket, the killer sweet stash. And what I love about it too, it's got the grenadine. It's dark at the bottom. The color fades at the top. The grenadine. It's got a little bit of that Miami Vice vibe to it.
It does.
Totally on brand for you. So
waterfront dining.
Waterfront dining. All the speedboats we can handle.
So
Nick. Scotty, we're here. We've made a drink.
We made a drink.
We're hanging out.
You're hanging out.
And I want you to tell our listeners, tell the folks in the live chat, give us a little bit of your Star Wars story, kind of the short version of how you got to Star Wars, your origins. I know you're a prequels kid. Forgive me, that was rude. You're a younger fella than I am, but I know the prequels is a big part of you and your Star Wars story. But tell us, how you got to Star Wars, and even kind of connect that up to the Bombad Cast and the show that you guys do.
I'll tell you this much, Nick. The craziest thing about Star Wars is, especially when it comes down to, the journey with it, it was always there growing up. My family's a big Star Wars family. And with that being said, I remember going to see The Phantom Menace growing up. I was too young for the special editions, but we had the VHSs. I literally still have them right here as we speak. There's some stuff stacked on them. I don't want to pull them out just yet. But, they're right there. And they've always meant a lot to me. And I remember 1999. I remember 2002. I remember 2005 perfectly. I still have this. I have the ticket hub, like this ticket stub, still over there. And I just remember that day so well. I was in third grade, and I remember leaving our third grade into the school year party and going to see Revenge of the Sith. And after that point, and I'm sure everyone in the chat can speak to this, we thought it was done. Done. That was it. No more Star Wars. Of course, we had Clone Wars a couple years later, but I was I think 7th grade when that came out, so I wasn't really into it anymore. And other things had entered my interests: music, girls, obviously. Going throughout high school, you really don't stick to that much nerdy fandoms unless it's who you identify and what you do. But back where I was going, it really wasn't. I was a musician kind of kid, and I was doing all kind of musical stuff. So that became my nerdy fandom. And then, of course, what we'll talk about today, obviously, I'll never forget it for as long as I live, when the first Force Awakens trailer dropped. And I don't know what it was in me, November 2014, but literally something in my genetics changed. And the cells started splitting and things started to get real different in my body.
Clearly, it was your midichlorian count.
Yes, exactly. And, to speak to that, too, I never heard that there was prequel hate till I got to college, and I never really understood it when I got to college too. And of course, this is when Star Wars came back, so I never really got to see that much of it. And that's one thing I'm thankful for, is that it didn't jade my point of view.
Absolutely.
Just a lot like other people could say that happened to them. But my journey kind of just from that point on, I identify with Star Wars way more than anything else. I still obviously play music and Silver Colored Knob, and I do a bunch of other fun stuff with music still, but it's taken the back burner in terms of interest. And, went to Celebration Orlando. You said you went there too. I'm so shocked that we were in the same place, the same exact time. And then, of course, 2019 Celebration came around. I was already doing stuff in the fandom, but that's when I met Jerry, and literally, and I will thank them for the rest of my life. Resistance Broadcast is kind of what brought us together there. And then after that, it kind of triggered me to have my interest in everything else. And literally, Jerry and I were like, let's start a podcast. Why not? And this is, back in June of 2019, and we're going to come up on our 2-year pretty soon. So, that's Nick, I think it's so fun that I've met so many people through just doing this, and meeting someone like you, through Holo Chronicles, because you were not like you said, you were not a Bombad guy. And
that's right.
If I could talk to the Bombad Cast for one moment, if you haven't checked us out, I'd imagine a lot of people in the chat have. It's a lot of fun, and it gets really weird. And Jerry and I let any of those, when you have those moments, those instances where well, it could go this way. Well, we always make it go this way, no matter what. There's no hesitation. So
the hard left guarantee.
Oh, of course, dude. And I don't know. It's and Jerry is. I'm not kidding. And I would never ever say Star Wars changed my life. I would say the people I've met through Star Wars have changed my life.
Absolutely.
So I'm just really thankful that we can do stuff like this and people want to enjoy and be a part of the conversation. That's why I love doing it.
No doubt. And I think that, what you said hits the nail on the head, and probably better than I've heard anybody say it in a while. Star Wars didn't change your life. The people you've met through Star Wars changed your life. Star Wars, same thing for me. Star Wars has always been around. Star Wars obviously always been around for you. But I was born in 78. So my entire life, Star Wars has always been a thing. I didn't get to experience before Star Wars. It's always been something that I've done. And I've gone through those same journeys, for you talking about, you thought that was all we were going to get. That was me, with the original trilogy, and then going through the 90s and reading all the EU books. And, then when I heard there were going to be more movies, I couldn't contain the excitement. I was in college when the prequels came out, and I was one of those ones who experienced it, was disappointed by it, never got to the hatred point, which I think we've all talked about a lot, with the fandom and the challenges inside of that. But I also love being what is referred to as a reformed prequelist. Like, I do appreciate the prequels a lot more than I ever did before as a part of the bigger story. And there are so many great things. I mean, we're about to get a Ewan McGregor Obi-Wan TV show, for crying out loud. Like, and I think a lot of people would say, I mean, not you, because there's Jar Jar. But for me, my favorite part of the prequels, even when I wasn't super high on the prequels, was Ewan McGregor's Obi-Wan. Like, of course, that was the thing that stood out. That was the thing that, was special. But to come back to that point of the connections that are made in the Star Wars family, we talked, several times in the last couple of weeks about found family. In fact, you were on as one of the hosts of Beyond the Blast Doors Live a couple weeks ago. You and David Narzu talked about Rey and Rey Skywalker and that whole thing. And I'm still a little bit worried that Arzu is going to kill me one day, but but I kind of threw out that point, and she was like, "Hold up, I disagree. I have something to say." Yeah. And what I love not only about what you guys do in the Beyond the Blast Doors network and all the other shows that y'all have, there's room for dialogue, and there's room for dialogue without, the hate and the negativity and the things. Because as we've said many times, if Star Wars makes me mad, I should get out. Like, what am I doing here? It's not for me. But being able to connect with people, especially in the last year, we've all been at home. We've all been going through something that none of us ever thought we'd ever experience, with a global pandemic and quarantines and all these different things. So to be able to connect even more now, I joke all the time that Force Connect on Friday nights is the bar that I've gotten to go hang out with at the last year with friends, because normally in real life, we get to go out, leave the kids with a babysitter and go have some drinks with friends. Of course. We can't do that right now. So now I get to do that with my Star Wars friends, or, and so the connecting points in the fandom is what makes it. It's all about, being able to connect with each other, whether it's through a podcast, whether it's through, the magic of the software to host an internet TV show from my laptop. Like, it's wild. We're going to try something new tonight that we haven't done on Podcast of the Wills, and I figured it out thanks to you. We're going to see how it goes in a minute. We'll buckle up. But that's the connecting point of Star Wars. Star Wars didn't change my life. The people I've met through Star Wars have changed my life. And so you said it fantastically, and I thank you for that.
Of course.
Wise words, Grasshopper.
See, that's the thing. You spend so much time studying and thinking about Star Wars, and might be a little neurotic. I'm just gonna be honest with you. I tend to think about this. Let's say if your brain occupies 100% of the space, I'm not kidding, 30% of it daily is just like reflecting on Star Wars or what's coming up next and what can I talk about, and it's just, there's so much that goes into it. And if it's 30% of it is Star Wars, but hopefully 30% of it's positive too. So just make sure it's good thoughts and thoughts that don't, exhaust you. And I'm looking forward to Celebration. I told you before we started, I'm going to Galaxy's Edge in April, and I'm beyond excited because I cleared out all my collection to bring more stuff in. It's just part of it. It's fun to be a part of this fandom right now. And it's going to stay that way, obviously, because we've got a bunch of great people making new Star Wars. So
absolutely, and there's so much more to be excited about and things to look forward to. Which, as a content creator, if I can call myself that, I'm super thankful about that, because I'll be honest, there was a moment right before I started doing these Sunday night live shows where we were doing every Friday, we were doing a Mando recap show, like all of the other 76,000 Star Wars podcasts out there. And when we got to that last episode, I had that real moment of panic of like, what are we going to talk about now? Like, I've gotten really excited about being consistent and pushing the show and, connecting with more folks and doing it more regularly. And all of a sudden there was this roadblock coming right in front of me.
Oh yeah.
And so, like a lot of things, you kind of pivot, and, there's still moments when I sit there and I go, I've got guests lined up, or I look to the list that of folks I've got coming up in the next few weeks, and I look at those empty spots and I'm going, how much farther do I get to do this? But you know what? It's fun. I'm going to keep doing it till I don't get to. And if I start bringing folks back and we have all-star weeks, we'll have all-star weeks. We'll do whatever we need to. But that's the fun of it, because when it's fun and it's genuine, I mean, I'm not dying to do this to replace my job. If I thought that was a possibility, it'd be way nicer than it is right now.
Of course.
I'm doing it because it's fun. And that's why most of us do it, is because we love it. It's fun. And it's something we're passionate about. So why not push it? Why not figure out ways to have more fun with the thing you're passionate about? And I see that in you guys' show. Now, I feel like with you guys, you're going to go forever because the twists and turns that your show takes, you're not running out of stuff. But
no. And there's moments where like literally the day before we go live or do something, we're like, what are we doing? And then like Pete always jokes about, Pete's like, I'm not even sure if they know what they're doing on this episode. And you're right, Pete. A lot of the time you're right. But that's the thing. You know, as long as you can still enjoy it and you still got people that want to hang out and talk to you, I mean, by all means, it's something that's a communal experience. And you can see right now it's happening and it's an absolute blast. So I love it. I don't know.
Absolutely.
And,
all right.
And like you said, it gets sometimes they get some viral things out of you, you know, and there we go.
I started to tip my hat almost too soon. Trying to get prepared here. And if you're not watching live right now, if you're listening on the podcast audio version tomorrow, it's fine. Nothing happened. Move along. Nothing to see here. But I agree with you completely. And there's so much fun and talking even about connections. And that's what I want to kind of use as our transition into our top 7 list. Our top 7 list tonight. I threw at you and right away you were like, oh heck yes, I want to do this.
Oh yeah.
Look at that. We're gonna talk about your top 7 Star Wars viral moments. And viral moments are a newer thing in our culture because viral moments really are a product of the internet, but the internet more in the YouTube age and in the social media age, and the ability for instant communication, instant contact. And I thought about that, and I have a thought about that I want to bring back up later. But talking about connection, and I want to get to that as we get into this list and some of the things that, you know, connections. But I want to jump in, and I'm not ready for that. I'm teasing like in a weird way, not intending to tease like this, but we're going to jump in. We're going to do your top 7 Star Wars viral moments. If you're watching the stream right now, bear with me. I'm about to put some images up on the screen.
Oh, excited.
And I figured this out because Scotty told me how, like at 1:00 today, I texted him and I was like, hey, how do I do this to try and add, you know, this element of what we're doing? So your number 7 Star Wars viral moment is BB-8 rolling on stage at Celebration in Anaheim in 2015.
So I remember this very well. This is before the trailer we got with Chewie and Han and Chewie were home. This is like right before they actually dropped that trailer. Right. And there was still a lot of mystery going around with, you know, what this movie was going to be about, you know, where it was going. We knew so little about it. And this in particular, it's true, David. You know, this moment was incredible because we all thought that little droid rolling on the ball that really briefly saw for 2 seconds was obviously CGI, and that's never going to be real. And here we are watching the live stream. I'll never forget where I was. So this is a quick little story. Yeah. Me and my buddy Chase, we did a 12-hour road trip from Hammond, Louisiana to Nashville, Tennessee. Well, we stayed in a smoker's room in Nashville. We stayed at like a hotel that was like $25 a night. It was just like, you name it, everything ratchet. I mean, it was just gross. And we were 19 at the time, and we just didn't have the money to do anything. And so we drove up there, and we stayed at this place called the Roadway Inn, and it was just not the best place to stay. And there was a smoker's room, and I got an upper respiratory infection because we stayed there for like 5 days straight. So we come back, and it was like April, middle of April, and that's, of course, I'm laying in bed, and I'm like, oh, let's watch this live stream, and this moment happens, and it literally blew me away. This is whenever I thought, okay, you know, we saw the Force Awakens teaser trailer like that. That's great and all, but this is when I'm like, Star Wars is, you know, innovating again. We're back. This is a reality. What we are looking at is 100% real. It's practical. That was the tagline for all of Star Wars: The Force Awakens. It's practical. So yeah, and that's true. I mean, literally, BB-8 is now a huge staple in Star Wars, as big as some would say other really big things in Star Wars is. So I'll never forget seeing this for the first time. Nick, do you have anything? Do you remember seeing this or no?
Yeah, and I was gonna say I don't know. I didn't go to that celebration. That was Anaheim in 15. I'm sure that at some point I was probably working, and so I think they streamed some of it. I know I tried to watch the Chicago streams in 19.
Yeah.
That was something they added as they went. But whether I saw this when it happened or it was one of those things that like the next day, like Good Morning America, like they featured it, or on the Today Show, it was featured as, because it was such a big deal. And exactly what you said, when I saw that first effect in that very first teaser trailer, it was that really hurried BB-8 on Jakku, bouncing past the thing, looking at the camera and keep going. And the immediate first thought I had was like, okay, computer, new robot, cool.
Yeah.
It's neat. The concept was still neat, but it didn't impress me the way it ultimately did when they did this, when it rolled out, and that was, and I think exactly what you said, that big tagline being, it's real. And for me, the hardest thing when it came down to it about the prequels was how cartoony it felt, because they went off the deep end with green screen, blue screen, CGI. And what I grew up with was exactly what George Lucas says, and especially in those early documentaries about the original trilogy, it needed to be a galaxy that felt lived in. It wasn't shiny. It wasn't perfectly spranky. Like, he was on Tatooine and he was a farmer. Everything was dusty and broken and cobbled together. So when they came out and he rolled out on stage independently, there wasn't like a puppet. There wasn't, it was just as good as an R2 rolling out there with somebody behind the stage with the control. That was one of those holy cow aha moments. And it was brilliant. It really was. And I think that drove that early hype as much as anything. Well, not as anything else, because we're going to get into some of those with Force Awakens in a minute. But it really was one of those things that you're like, oh, and it felt like, to me, and I think where it spoke to me the most was the innovation aspect of it.
Oh, of
that
course.
early innovation in the original trilogy was, like we talked about with Yoshi last week, inventing, these new techniques, kit bashing and building a Death Star trench on ping pong tables in a parking lot in California and driving past it with a Jeep and a camera to turn around and make that the shot that you get. You know, that was the same thing. They're innovating the actual technology to make something that rolls where the head stays on top. And it's not incredible. Like you could pick, it's brilliant. And it's amazing. It's the inspiration that drove Star Wars. And I think that's part of what drives the rest of it now and is continuing to drive it, even with things like the volume. The volume is a digital effect, but it's worlds different than blue screen and green screen. And it allows them to do more things and make it more accurate and realistic. Like, there's not one part of The Mandalorian that I've watched in 2 seasons where I stopped and went, that feels like a computer.
Yep.
It hits, and I think that's
the thing
with this.
Exactly. They promised us it would be more rooted in physical things, and this is the definition of it right here. And I'll never forget, I believe at the same panel they showed JJ's brief drawing. It was a circle on top of a circle. He was like, I want to make this happen on a napkin. And like, it's just, to me, JJ did one of the most incredible things. I don't care what anyone has to say about his movies, but in terms of bringing Star Wars back, he did it, and he did it better than anyone else could have. And like, I mean, look at this. That character that we're looking at now is now so important and so iconic. And I'm going to Galaxy's Edge. I'm going to see him there. And you know what I mean? Like, and I can go build one of his kind there. When the Sphero came out, I spent $150 and bought it. Like, it just was so impressive and incredible for the time. And I mean, also, Nick, with this as well, you got to think about it in context too. 2015, I mean, you're starting to see a really big shift in terms of filmmaking. Things are starting to look a little more realistic. And then The Force Awakens came out, and there was, I mean, the movie, I think I would say in terms of CGI is probably one of the best looking Star Wars movies because of how well it still stands up. And
I agree. And
that's even part of it.
And to shout out again, last week I had Yoshi Vu on, and Yoshi talked, the work that he does, the work that he did on Rise of Skywalker, on the remnants of Death Star 2.
Oh, it's insane.
It's brilliant. But what I love so much in this new era of Star Wars, and especially in the sequel trilogy, is you take the best of both worlds, take the digital aspects and take the practical elements. You know, I'm a sucker for behind the scenes. I've talked about that many times. When you watch that stuff and like John Boyega talking about the first time he showed up and saw the practical set of the Millennium Falcon and he got to walk on it and like lost his mind. I'm like, John Boyega is all of us. Like, I don't know what you're going to do when you go to Galaxy's Edge.
I'm not ready.
And it's right there in front of you. I'm going to cry as a 50-year-old man at some point whenever I get there. And it's just brilliant. So to take the technology we have, but also bring in practical effect and to mesh those together, to me feels very much like what George did in the 70s and 80s making the original trilogy. And I love this, and frame me through this in the comments. Didn't JJ say they didn't have a practical DO when they shot Tross, but then they figured it out in time for Celebration to have it on stage? And again, the ability for, and again, the unsung heroes that worked on creating an actual BB-8 that you could run with a remote control out on a stage. The folks, these guys, their whole job is like, I figured out how to make that a real thing. Like, I took a drawing that J.J. Abrams made on a napkin and I made it a real thing that you can do. Like, it's wild.
It's wild. It's amazing.
Well, speaking of wild, we're going to jump into number 6 and we're going to continue with this Force Awakens love. Number 6 is the Chewie we're home moment from the Force Awakens trailer.
Oh my God. The best.
It's so good. And I want to hear you tell me about it, why it's so good for you, because I'm going to come in right behind you and follow up.
Well, we know how much was depending on this one premiere alone. And like, what a perfect way to not reveal any of the story, you know? And they had like Mark Hamill's in that trailer in particular, they had Mark Hamill doing that overall dialogue and stuff. And we've got this right here is the ending shot. You know, it fades to black, Chewie, and then it fades in, we're home, and Chewbacca makes a noise. Then it goes, dun, goes the Star Wars theme. It's just like that moment for me, and you've seen trailer reactions and stuff. I'd imagine back then when I had it, I'd probably jumped and fist bumped. And I remember I was sick as a dog, and I'm like, no way they just did that. No way they just did that. Because this was something that I think fans have wanted for, I think fans wanted this more than they wanted Return of the Jedi. I mean, like people wanted this, them older and them dealing with being older. And, you know, ultimately some people like the final product. I loved it. Some people might not have, but it's undeniable. This was the moment that the hype for The Force Awakens skyrocketed. We were all really looking forward to it. December couldn't come any sooner, but when they showed this, oh my God, I'd imagine anyone the chat can say to this too. And you got to think, Nick, you were a young kid when you were seeing Han Solo in theaters. Like you said, you were born in 78. Right. So you were 7 when, you were 5 when Return of the Jedi came. Okay. Remember seeing it?
I saw, yes, I did not. I saw Return of the Jedi at a drive-in theater in the back of my parents' station wagon.
Okay.
In Central Illinois.
And that's the same people you saw then too. So your brain automatically goes back to, our mind goes back to the VHSs looking at these two characters. And it was just, and I think, like I said, there's a moment where you can kind of recall your fandom, kind of came back, or you remember that it didn't leave you. This is one of the ones, remember, it was like, okay, I'm really deep into this now. I remember going on to Star Wars leaks after that. I was like, I wanted everything Star Wars right now. And the wait from this point to the movie was intense from April to December. So, oh my God, dude, was insane.
And I'm trying to remember, surely by the time we got this trailer, they had already put out the picture of them at the read-through, that black and white picture of us. So we knew that Harrison was going to be there.
Sure.
And for me, as an original trilogy kid, that was one, like, I knew the stories about how Han Solo didn't really want to do Return of the Jedi and how he wanted, it's canon lore that, Harrison Ford was ready to be done. He felt like his character was over. And so I saw him in that read through, but at that picture that they put up, but you still didn't really know what are we going to get.
Sure.
And we're going to come to the next clip in a minute as, a similar connecting point to this. But this for me, like, this is that moment where my heart stopped for a second.
Oh,
like,
dude.
as an original trilogy kid, to see these two characters in this ship in this moment, I didn't care what Chewie were home meant.
Yeah.
To me, I was home. Like, that's what it felt like. Like, I was home, and it was that thing where J.J. Abrams was saying to me, hey, you, the kid that grew up with this and worshiped these guys, this is for you.
They're back.
And yeah, we're back, baby. We're back. Like, that's what it felt like. And it was one of those, you know, the warm fuzzies, if you want to call it. Like, it was legit. It was so good. And I'll say this, I don't remember where I was when I saw this. I don't remember what the stage and status of my life was. I have kids, I have job, I have, you know, it didn't stick, but the moment stuck.
Yes.
The ability to go the same thing. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute when we get to the next one. But like, it hit. It was one of those things that I went, that's the character I know.
See,
that's
and
one of, you know,
remember seeing the link to my dad and my mom, and like they were like, yeah, this is going to be amazing. And it was amazing. I mean, this movie, I think, you know, they said The Phantom Menace, and I was too young to recall it, had the most hype, but my college years, everyone besides Endgame or Infinity War, this was the movie that people were like, this is going to be the movie that defies a generation. And 2015 was the year for it. And everything following it. I mean, The Force Awakens had such a high that I still think we're living off of it right now. And I agree, right? You felt like you were home when they said that moment. Man, we are back. The characters we wanted to see are back. And I mean, even the delivery of Harrison Ford, you know, was just perfect. It was all so good.
Absolutely. And to, you know, to then get to see the movie and to see Han Solo back, like, he was still Han Solo. And what we know, like, too. You know, you see Harrison Ford interviews, and he's a curmudgeon, and he's a grouchy, you know, he's earned his right to be a grouchy curmudgeon. But like, and that's interesting to me too, because we know that the Indy movie has started shooting or is about to, and I'm so interested because Indy was the other thing that was my childhood. I can't wait to see, you know, how does that go? But to see him in those interviews and to know how he felt about Star Wars for so long, and then for him to kind of circle back as Force Awakens came out and got the acclaim that it did. And he had those, you know, softening moments of like recognizing publicly, like, yeah, this was a big deal for me, and it got me where I am today. And, you know, the things, especially he said about Carrie and after Carrie died, and, you know, all of that, like, that's what you want. That's what you want from your heroes. And you want it from, you know, Han Solo or Harrison Ford or whoever. But it was just one of those moments that you're just like, there it is. Like, all I know to do is to pump my fists and freak out.
Heck yeah. It was a tremendous thing to experience live. I think it's the thing that whenever I have kiddos, and I'm sure, you know, if they're ever big Star Wars fans, this is the thing I'll say, this is what did it for me. It is what got me back. It is what you got your dad crazy. Okay. This is the moment. This is it right
This is where it started. Well,
right here.
And it's funny, you mentioned before talking about the prequels, and you kind of said, you know, your parents have talked about, you know, when the prequels came out or whatever. I was in college when the prequels came out, and I will never forget. And somebody else I've listened to recently mentioned or talked about this, but when the trailer dropped for Phantom Menace.
Oh, I heard the story. Yeah.
I was in college. I went to a college where, you know, part of the whole deal to reel you in and get you to go to college there is like everybody gets a free computer and you get a free trip abroad after your junior year. You're going to pay for it, but it feels like it's free.
Yeah.
And so everybody had Gateway 2000 tower computers in the cow print box, like the whole deal. And the dorm that I lived in had T1 internet access. And that was a big deal in 1997. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
And so when that trailer dropped in 99, early 99, late 98, whenever it was, I loaded that trailer up and I had to wait. And I watched that bar on QuickTime work its way across until because you could start watching it, but when it got to the point where it wasn't downloaded, so you had to wait. And I waited like 4 hours for that thing to download on the school T1, like. And it was that thing like, don't you close this window, because if it starts over, I'm going to lose my mind. But waiting until that finally downloaded so I could watch it now literally 22 years ago. And you watch that trailer, and that moment then was the doors open and Maul standing there, and that double-bladed lightsaber goes,
so
and
good.
just that was that jaw-dropping, mind-blowing moment. So, speaking of jaw-dropping, minds being blown, let's go to number 5. Number 5 for you is the first Force Awakens trailer on Black Friday.
See, so wait, real quick, this is great because there's a really good story with this, right? And especially because of this, and I know the big part of this is the Force Awakens, but everyone in the chat has to realize this, that this was kind of what got me back, and this trailer in particular was the one that I would say, I mean, like I said, the one that got me fully involved, but this is the one that was that seed. All right, let's plant the seed there. And I'll never forget where I was. So this is kind of a long story, but my grandfather had been struggling with mesothelioma, and he had lung cancer at that point, 2014. He had it for 12 years, right? And he actually lived 4 more years after that. He lived till 2016. I don't know exactly how many years that would have been. I guess 2 years after that. So he was in MD Anderson, and we went and visited him for Thanksgiving, and it was he was staying at the little place that they let you stay at there in Houston. And we're visiting family, and I'll never forget, we were all, I'm like, what's coming out tomorrow, y'all? It's going to be the Force. Can't wait to go see this trailer. Can't wait to see this movie in theaters whenever it comes out in December, blah, blah, blah. We knew all this. And I'll never forget that night going to sleep. I heard you would see it a little bit early if it came on the Apple Trailers app, and I don't know how legitimate that was. So I had the Apple Trailers app, and I was like refreshing it every few seconds. And I was on Reddit looking at r/Star Wars, and it was like, the trailer's up. So I went out there and watched it. Never forget. It was like 6:30 or 7 in the morning. And I went to the bathroom because we're staying at a hotel. And my dad and my stepmom were still sleeping. And I remember being in the bathroom. And I had it like at 50%. And I'm watching it. And of course, what's the first image? It's Finn. He pops up. And then it was like, whoa, this is going to be cool. A stormtrooper with no helmet. Oh, that's great. And then you cut to all the other things that you see. You see Rey in the speeder. You see BB-8. You see Kylo Ren in the forest. And then the second you see the Falcon and the actual theme starts playing, man, I will never forget that. I was sitting on the toilet. I was looking at the photo on the left, and I was like, no way. And so I watched maybe 20 times, just kept watching. I'm like, what does this mean? Where could this go? And then I remember going back out of the bathroom, and I remember my dad had just woken up, and I'm like, Dad, real quick, I want to show you all this.
You got to check this out.
And I showed it to him. He goes, no effing way. And I'm like, it's back. Fantastic. It's going to be so cool. And that was the seed right there. That was it. Like that was it for me. Oh my God. What about you, Nick?
And this was an image I pulled from YouTube and Google. Reaction videos, which we're about to get deep into some reaction videos here in the next couple of things. But this was there are 2 moments. This was a big moment on this screen. This guy's watching when that lightsaber, that red blade came out, and for that split second hesitation, and then those other 2 came out, and collectively everybody's minds were blown.
Why? How? And, what?
It became such a deal. I love the clip, and it shows up every now and then, where Stephen Colbert is sitting at his desk and he does the drawing of like, it's not that hard. This is how it works. It's not this, it's this. I love Stephen Colbert for exactly reasons like that. But in that trailer for me, same thing. It came out on a Black Friday in 2014, right there on the screen. Came out Black Friday 2014. I don't know what I was doing. It was the day after Thanksgiving. And I think, as a SEC college football person, and I know you can feel me on this.
Yes.
There was a weird, dumb, dark period where they moved the Iron Bowl to Black Friday instead of the Saturday after Thanksgiving.
Remember that.
This may have been in that window of time. So my thoughts at that point were mostly on the Iron Bowl. We've got a big game coming up. It doesn't mean anything other than I'm going to make food, drink beer, and watch football with my friends.
Yeah.
But this was a big deal. This was Star Wars. It was still something that was huge. And so I had no idea what to expect. We had seen the cast photo. We had seen, the time. And I didn't even now I barely know how to navigate Reddit. That's something that makes me an old person in my yard screaming at cars driving fast. But I didn't, and I have no problems with leaks, but I feel like my mode personally is, if it's something officially put out, if it's a Disney trailer, they're not going to tip their hand. If it's behind the scenes footage that they've sanctioned, they're not going to tip their hand. I'm not worried about that stuff. And that's what I usually stick to, because I do want the experience. I do want, especially as I get older and try to, as David said, what's a Reddit? I feel you. I feel you, Dave. I feel you. I'm right there with you.
I could teach you, old man.
But that trailer came out. And so, like we said, we had BB-8, that bouncy, that like, okay, this is new.
And then you saw the First Order Stormtroopers too. You saw their helmets the first
new
time.
Helmets. That's right. You get Finn popping up. Without a helmet. That was a big deal. And honestly, and as certainly as somebody who lives in the South, but also as somebody who's seen Star Wars my whole life, like, it was a black guy in a Stormtrooper outfit. Like, that was a new big thing.
It was amazing.
Like, we hadn't had that before. That was something else to be excited about. Like, we're changing Star Wars. We're adding layers to Star Wars. We're bringing in people to Star Wars. That's important. That's a big deal. But for me, again, the original trilogy part of me showing, when that shot that closes that trailer of the Millennium Falcon bursts through and that fanfare hits, I was done. Like,
it was done.
I don't care if the Iron Bowl was that day. I saw the Millennium Falcon do this crazy flip, fly, whatever, and the camera oriented behind it. I was cooked. Like,
and the ties, boom, come by the frame.
Right behind it.
Yeah, that was the best.
Cuts through. It was phenomenal, and that was a big deal. And again, I don't remember most of what was, did I watch it when I woke up on my phone that morning? Probably. I don't really remember. But I remember seeing that scene and seeing that shot of the ship that I have loved with my whole heart and my whole life. And again, we were home. We were back. Like, it went, okay, I can get more excited about this thing that I was a little bit hesitant about based on what happened in the prequels.
Back to the viral thing too. I mean, that's the first time I ever saw a trailer reaction, was that priest that watched it, this guy that watched it. I mean, there was a bunch of people that had watched it, and I was like, these things are great. These reaction videos are cool, because it wasn't just me feeling this way. And at the time, it felt a little like that, because this community had not been formed yet. The community I associate myself with now, and of course the community at large, was still kind of hurt from the prequels for some reason. But I mean, that I can expect that, how people feel about them. But to have this community kind of form back, this is the catalyst for me. And then of course the speculations. And I was a big follower of Star Wars Newsnet then, and like I had their tweets. Like, every time they tweeted, I would get notified. Oh my god, it was so special. The speculation is that Luke with the lightsaber. That was a big discussion. I'll never forget, man. It was so cool. Who's the voiceover? Who the hell is that guy?
Who is that?
Well,
man, and again, and for me, at my core, that first Black Friday teaser trailer, that gave me, to use a very Star Wars word, that gave me hope. That gave me the opportunity to get a little bit excited, because I wasn't sure, because the prequels were not what I thought they were going to be. I got over it. I'm happy about the prequels now. But in those moments leading up, I was like, I hope this is going to, and I wasn't sour about it. I wasn't sour about it coming in, but there was just that little nagging part of me that was like, I hope this is going to to good. And of course it was
too. Forgot about the X-Wings going across the water.
Across the water. Like, just, it happened. It came. It was exactly what I hoped for. So that's a fantastic moment. As we jump to number 4, we're going to get super recent with December 2020 and the earnings call, the Disney earnings call. And this is when, for my listeners, the audio podcast, for those of you who are watching in the live chat, and if you're not familiar with Scotty and with the Bombadcast,
I'm sorry.
You shouldn't be. This is why you're here, and this is why we're doing this, my friend.
Oh my god.
Scotty is a reaction trailer king, and this isn't even the best one.
It's not on purpose.
It's coming. It's not on purpose, and that's what I love about you. I don't know you personally other than our interactions over the last year or so, but what I know about Scotty Jayro is this is a man who lives his life, heart and emotions on his sleeves, is as genuine as he can be. And it shows, and I'm going to talk about this on the next one especially, but like, what I'll forget what movie. He's a happy child. Like, you're a happy child. You're a happy person.
Yeah.
And when something hits you, you are in. This is one scene. I forget how long that call in the stream that you guys did was. I watched it live. I was cooking dinner in my kitchen. This one, I do know where I was. I was in the kitchen. I had my phone sitting on top of the coffee maker, and I was watching this, cooking dinner. And this, like, I'm going to put some links in the show notes for this for people to check out. Like, I need you to talk about it because I'm doing a lot of talking about this moment. But the December 2020 earnings call was when Disney Plus started talking about the upcoming slate of things. Hold on. I have to bring this up because it's important. Framey said Scotty is the human equivalent of pouring a packet of Mentos into a bottle of Diet Coke.
Capping it. And then waiting for it to pop.
Yep, that's exactly it. So, please tell us about this moment for you. Viral sensation, Scotty Jayro.
This whole day was insane because I remember looking at it and I'm saying the earnings call is going to be streamed, which it's never been streamed before using video, right? And I was like, this could be a big day. And Celebration obviously was postponed. Comic-Con was postponed. I mean, everything that these things, D23, all these things that were announced this day would have all been announced separately in their own little, pockets of fandom. And it would have been way less condensed. It would have been, more spread out. So this day came, and I'll never forget, I was messaging in our network group chat, and I was like, hey, we should really cover this day. I think it's going to be a lot bigger than we expect. And, and this is nothing against my people I work with, crickets. No response. Okay? So, crickets. All right, here we go. A couple hours before, I'm like, David, we've got to put something out. This could be really big. And like, I see that people that like, Jordan Mason and some people that are in the know are like, this is going to be a big day I would watch. Right. And so the second it starts, I'm watching it and like, it shows the Disney Plus slate. It shows like all the discussions that are going on. And the second it said 10 new things from Marvel, 10 new series from Star Wars. I never forget. I texted like, we have to live stream this. We have to. So then, of course, Josh and David were pulling something together. We're getting visuals together, and we start. And it was about, I think, 40 minutes in, and we were kind of watching every other thing and talking. And there's my boy Eric Cottam in the background, one of my best friends there. He's my big Star Wars dude. And Nick, when I say, and I'm not joking, after this event happened, me and Eric were on the phone the next day, and I said, Eric, is it bad for me to say that might be one of the greatest days of my life? Because what we got, y'all, is a guarantee of Star Wars for 10 plus years. Not that I was worried about it, but to have this be confirmed and to have 10 things announced that no one expected, okay? We knew Andor was coming. We knew Kenobi was coming. And I think Bad Batch, maybe, but that was about it.
Yeah,
and we got Bad Batch. So many different things. Nick, that reaction, that's the thing too. People don't realize this if they haven't been to a celebration. We get these kind of announcements over five whole days, right?
Right.
And you're not as overwhelmed. But look at the face of that man right there. You got it. We got it in less than, and I counted it, 24 minutes. We got 10 things announced and like 5 more things alluded to. I mean, that within itself might be that'll never, I don't think that'll ever happen for as long as we live. And especially because of this reaction video, I did not mean to be over the top. And I think a lot of people are upset, or they say like, oh, this is so fake. If you really know me, you would know that I get excited over the drop of a handkerchief. Like literally, I am always hyped to do anything and talk and whatever, like, doing these kind of things. But this moment, man, this moment, and I'm not, my goal is not to become viral or for people to see this and think, oh man, we should, make sure we watch this guy more often. No, it's just because this was just so huge on me, because I didn't think we'd get anything like this ever. And here we are. Crazy.
It's unbelievable. And a couple of points I want to make. One, Kathy Kennedy, y'all, just saying.
She's the best.
We stand a queen.
Oh,
Number 2, if you think this one shot that I pulled from the YouTube and screenshotted to put up on here, I'm encouraging all of you to go watch this whole video. Scotty started this video with a blazer on. Scotty ends this video in a completely different shirt. Like gets up and walks off camera to change shirts.
Yep.
Like it's real. It's like a James Brown performance is what it is.
It was
You're
nuts.
like the James Brown of reaction trailers in Star Wars. Like I need somebody to come in at the end of this video, put a cape around your shoulders and help you off the stage.
Exactly.
That's what we need here.
Oh,
it was fantastic. It was so much fun. It was exciting, of course, to get the information that was coming, but it was exciting to watch your reaction to that and to see, again, pure joy. That's what it comes down to. And we talk about Star Wars all the time. And if Star Wars makes you mad, what are you doing here? That's not happening to Scotty Jayro. Like, no, Star Wars is joy, and it should be joy. It's supposed to be fun.
And it's communal, right? I mean, literally, we would have got this at a celebration, and it wouldn't have looked as weird at a celebration because celebration you would have had thousands
everybody else doing it too.
Yeah. So you're watching this, and you're like, how could someone be so excited or get this emotional over it? I mean, you got to realize this doesn't happen often. This is like, at least to me, this is like when something happens at a national level, like we make it to Mars one day. I mean, this is going to be my reaction to that too, because it's this community I belong to is being justified in what we love and what we do. And you're also right. I have never screamed. I screamed so much this day. At school the next day I was hoarse and my legs were weak, so I can't help it.
and that's genuine. Like there's no other way to look at it. And so I want to use that as our transition into number 3. And number 3 is legit. And I've got to make sure that we're ready for this. This is the Rise of Skywalker trailer at Celebration in Chicago in 2019. There is video. Again, I'm going to put links in the show notes. A lot of our folks that are watching live with us tonight have seen these videos. But if you haven't, if you're listening on the audio this week, you absolutely have to go check this out. I watched this video. I probably took 10 different screenshots of different reactions, and I had a really hard time figuring out which one I was going to use. And I want you to talk about this moment, because this moment in particular, like this was from a video that you guys have on your channel, but like I knew your face before I knew who the Bombad cast was, because your reaction ended up in, and I can't remember, and you can tell me, I don't know if it was a Star Wars compilation that StarWars.com put out. Somewhere, somebody put out a compilation that came across my phone somewhere along the lines. And so I knew, like, the first time I watched Bombad Cast, I went, that's that guy from the reaction video. But you were there. Please tell us about
Nick.
that.
If I can explain this day to you any better than you summarized it perfectly in terms of the hype behind it, because this right here, okay, let me tell you a brief story. So Thursday at Celebration, I had just met a bunch of people that I had known through Twitter. It was a great day. And of course, as I'm walking into the convention late for some reason. I'll tell you that story real quick too. And I'm running to Jerry and I'm like, let's watch this trailer together. We had the ability to go see it on the showroom floor, which is my preferred viewing because that's where a lot of people are in a much more compact area. You're right. You know, you can see it. I mean, look at this. There's a ton of people there. And Jerry are the shoulders that I'm touching in front of me. And the crazy thing was this day, I had told Katie how important this day was going to be. This is the, Celebration every year has like one day you want to be there for it, like one real big day. And all the other panels are pretty good. This is the day I was like, we have to be there. And of course, Katie leaves her phone on the Uber. Okay. So she thinks, oh, I left my phone in the Uber.
And let me pull you over real quick.
Yeah.
Shout out to Katie.
Yes.
Your girlfriend, lovely lady in your life.
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken, if you go and watch the actual video, you see Katie's arm in a black sweatshirt or jacket or shirt of some sort, caressing your shoulders, comforting you. And I love Katie for that moment alone. Like she knew, she recognized, she saw you in this moment and went, that's my man and I'm here for him. That's big right there. That's real big.
You know what, Nick? You're right. And that morning I was so intense because, she had left her phone in the Uber. So then she thinks, because she didn't remember her Apple password, we can find my iPhone. Nope. We go back to the Airbnb and it's not in the Airbnb where she thought it was. And we get back and we call another Uber to take us to the other Uber who had just, I think at the end of the day, it was $150 in Uber because there was like a severance pay. We found the phone. It's great. We're an hour and a half later than we thought we would because I wanted to be right at the front of the stage to see this, but we got somewhere in the middle. Now, I'm very happy it ended up this way because we were in the perfect spot to see like 3 different screens. Last time we saw the TLJ trailer at 17, we could only see one screen and it was terrible. We were way too close up. So all that being said, my I guess hype on this was so high because I knew what we're going to get and we didn't even know the name to this movie. We had no idea what this movie was going to be about or the name. We knew nothing about this movie, which was so incredible. And then you're sitting there and you're watching it and you feel the tension in the room. And that's what I tell my kids, Mr. Jayro, why were you crying? Why are you crying when you were watching this? They and like Jerry said, yeah, man, they don't get how powerful this was. This is, in this moment, you're looking at probably about 10,000 people sharing a moment that'll be so unforgettable. And it is, to this day, the most well-constructed trailer of all time. I will argue that till I die. It blows every other Star Wars trailer out of the water because you finally get to see all 3 of our new heroes doing their thing. You get Kylo Ren. You get everything out of this trailer. So this moment right here will stand the test of time for how happy at the peak happiness of Star Wars, because you've got the left is going to be it's IGN's video. You've got John Hoey and James Baney, the top left right there with their logo right there. You've also got the convention hall down there. You've got my friend Josh Sutter right there in the middle. Then you've got the actual coverage to the right and me in the middle. Now, the thing about this is I've watched a bunch of trailer reactions and I know the best ones are the ones that kind of have a lot going on. You hear the sound, you hear the crowd moving and changing. And this is when I made this is the craziest part, dude. These trailer reactions dropped like the next day in April, right? All of these did. I didn't drop this till August of 2019. And it still has 4 million views. I don't know if it's because of how it's orchestrated or how it's done or my reaction. I can tell you this much. I absolutely love this video, and not because I'm in it, because it captures a very special moment in my life. And it's before Bombad Cast, like right before Bombad Cast. And I knew what I wanted to do after this. And I knew perfectly in this moment that that's the Rise of Skywalker would be an incredible movie. And I still stand by that statement. And I mean, there's so much in this, dude. You get the Death Star destroyed. You get so many special things. You get Carrie Fisher's been dead for 3 years at this point. You get new footage of her hugging. Like literally, you can see me cry and freak out because of what's happening here. And the very ending, you get the laugh, the cackle of Palpatine. Truly the most shocking thing of all time. I will say that was the greatest moment ever. Seeing my reaction now is so good. And then, of course, the name, The Rise of Skywalker. It was just, Nick, it was perfect. It is perfect. And it is a viral video, so we had to put it on there. It is truly, I mean, you're right. People have seen my face before. And it's weird to say that. And we had right to the left of me, craziest thing is, I think it's either Ryan from Blue Bantha Milk. I believe, might be Ryan, I don't remember. But I can tell you this much. He's there watching it too. And he's right next to me. Okay. And like, I didn't know him. I didn't know he had a podcast, but here we are. Right. You know, he's like, that's me right next to me the whole time. So yeah, I'm gonna get a shirt with my face on it and said, "You saw me cry." You know, high five me if you saw me cry in 2019, because that was such an incredible moment. Anyway, what's your story with it? So you actually saw it before you knew me?
I saw, yes, at some point.
Weird.
And again, and I think, in fact, Framey put it up here. Let me see if I can find it real quick. He said, "Didn't Scotty end up on some official Star Wars clip reel? We seem to think we recall it." And that's what I think. I think that it was maybe the Star Wars show or one of these things that came out officially from Star Wars. Was one of those things that, like, I saw it. It was one of those deals like, okay, that guy's really into this. And so are a bunch of other people. And, you know, reaction videos became more and more of a thing. It was, you know, one of those deals that was really important. Like it stood out as something like, oh wow, like this is big. What I love in this video is, you get Ian McDiarmid coming out on the stage and standing there and roll it again, doing the whole deal. But for me, the joy in it, and this is what kind of hit me, talking about connection and talking about Star Wars doesn't change my life, the people that I'm connected to Star Wars. I mean, I got to Star Wars because of my dad. I've talked about that before. Like my dad was a sci-fi guy. He's more Star Trek. In fact, shout out, my parents last Sunday started watching the show on their TV at home. So mom and dad, good to see you.
Nice.
Hope you're having fun. Thank you for, this is where your son has ended up. But I got to Star Wars because of my dad. Like the love he had of sci-fi introduced me to Star Wars. And so there's a connection point there. It's one of those things that watching this video, and I don't know if it's a little bit because I do know you a little bit now, but when I watch these kinds of videos, like I watched it today to capture these screenshots on my phone and I got choked up.
Yeah.
Because of the pure emotion of watching, like it's genuine. You're not faking it to try and get a bunch of viral views. It's one of those things that it's a big deal because it's pure. And that's what I think is so important about Star Wars. And sometimes we get separated from when we get too worked up about, did I like this character? Did it do what I wanted him to do? Like there's a purity there that drives Star Wars. And it's evident in your kind of emotions. I'm sorry, I just got a side something that was happening, but I'm back. That's what it is for me. Like I watched the trailer when it came out, like everything else. I'm ready for, the pure moments in Star Wars. I'm ready for a trailer. I'm ready for when it downloads. And I watched the trailer, of course, like everybody else. And at that point I had a podcast. And so I watched the trailer a ridiculous amount of times, picked apart every single thing. I've made the joke before. You think I can't come up with something to talk about on a podcast? I think it was the Last Jedi trailer. We did a podcast that was like an hour and 45 minutes plus talking about the maybe 2 minutes that trailer was. I mean, give a nerd a chance and they'll talk until you make them stop.
Heck yeah.
And so that was the fun part, especially with this one, was the ability to watch the trailer whenever I knew it was going to drop or being irritated because it hadn't dropped yet or, whatever it was. And I saw it and I was like, holy crap, like, let me watch that again. Let me wind it back. Let me roll it again. Let me watch it a bunch of times on my phone. Let me watch it on Bluetooth in my car because it's going to be loud and sound awesome, whatever it was. But then in the ensuing days, to have the ability to see it from other people's perspective. That's what I want. That's kind of the point I'm trying to make is
no, I get it.
To see it through somebody else's eyes, somebody that's younger than me, somebody that's older than me. I've talked about this before, taking my kids to see Star Wars movies in the theater, the most recent couple, because my kids are older. I've got twins. One of them super into Star Wars. Shout out to Harper and Lily and Ren. I think they're watching right now. But to take them to see a Star Wars movie gives me a whole nother set of things where I'm watching it going, I don't know how I feel about this. And I look at them and I'm like, they're totally engrossed. Like that's where I came from. That's where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
So there's power in that. And I think the power in it is certainly the purity of it. And like you said, to be surrounded by this group of people, some of who you a little bit knew, others you didn't. In fact, Jerry said in the chat somewhere in here, he said Katie's such a beautiful soul. The first full day I hung out with Scotty and Katie, they were so kind to let me tag along, and now they can't get rid of me. Like there was a connection that was formed there that actually became your podcast. Like
it's funny, dude. I'll never forget the moments after this too, because that other 2 nights before that, I went out to eat with Alex Damon and his wife Molly. And we had set this up to hang out and chat and stuff, and we did it, and it was wonderful. And that night he looked at me and goes, they want me to go on that Star Wars stage and like do a trailer, like talk about the trailer afterwards. I'm like, dude, that's going to be amazing. So Jerry and I stuck and we watched that happen live. And literally this dude next to me, he's like, I know they're bringing Palpatine back. They're going to have him be a clone there from his dead body, and he's going to leave his body and go there. And I looked at him, I'm like, I don't know about all that. And here we are now with the answer. And it's just funny because, there was so much speculation that had to happen to lead to that moment too. And, if I could say anything about this is that one of the best compliments that was ever paid to me was by my 9th grade science teacher, because at my school we have a really big really big senior year retreat that's like a whole day, and you go to this little place and you kind of like pour your heart out and talk about things there at the retreat. And he was one of my retreat leaders. He goes, Scott, there's no one else like you. You've got a very childlike point of view of everything. You're always excited and ready to do something new, and that's the manifestation of this. And I'm
that's right.
I'm lucky to say that my eyes or my opinion, my heart is always open. And this moment, it was opened and it was just experiencing a lot. And I'm very happy that this was captured there. And I mean, if you see it from the perspective over here, you can actually see it happening right now. If you look at the picture of the man on the right of the screen with the solo shirt, right behind him, you see me with my hand over my mouth. Okay. And then to the left or to my right is Katie wiping her eyes. And that alone says so much. I drag her to every Star Wars convention, dragging her to Galaxy's Edge with me. I mean, like, she's going through thick and thin to make sure I get what I want, enjoy what I want. And there she is having a moment too, seeing me very happy. And you got to think, I mean, I belong to the Catholic Church. I play guitar at Mass every Thursday with my school, and God makes me feel a certain way, and as it should. But to have a communal experience like this, it's, you can't compare it to anything else.
Absolutely. Well, I want to make 2 points.
Yes, please.
First of all, Andy, as a teacher and with a teacher as a guest tonight, Scotty, I'm going to ask Andy to see me in the principal's office after the show is over, because Andy said the Force Awakens and Rise of Skywalker trailers are the best. The Last Jedi trailer reacts are similar to the movie. I'm left wanting. So Andy, please see me after class. We'll get back to you. Now, I want to do something here, and I hadn't planned on this. And again, the beauty of technology, the things that I'm thankful for as we, as I produce a live TV show sort of on the fly on the internet, I have somebody who has some other insight into this moment that we're seeing on the screen. And I promised that I would drag them in just for a quick couple of seconds, because in the humbleness of his heart, he doesn't want to steal your moment. But I think this is an important enough moment to see.
I have no idea.
I need to hear from Jerry.
Hey, buddy.
And I need Jerry to talk about his perspective of being there with you. First of all, Jerry, hello, brother.
Yes. Hi, guys. Can you hear me okay? I'm good.
Yes,
I literally got everything set up in 30 seconds. And seriously, Scotty, I was like, no, what are you doing? I talked forever. This is, I guess, was there a show called This Is Your Life or whatever that where like you had all the people that you've touched and stuff? Seriously, I mean every word that I said. I went to that thing alone, and you and Katie pulled me out. I was way back in the rabble, like way back out in the hallway, like not even 100 feet out. And you and Katie and Eric was with you guys too. I think. Well, I don't know. I can't.
Eric was at the hall already. He was already
right. But you and Katie specifically, you saw me, recognized me, and said, "Hey, man, come with us." And I cannot tell you how much that meant to me. Seriously,
life changing.
It's serious, it's life, and not even just for the fact that we have a Star Wars podcast, because that you guys showed me kindness in that moment and let me hang out with you all day. Which I felt terrible about for a little bit, until I realized that you guys were just amazing people and were just super sweet and we got along so well. But that moment, I have never been so okay with someone I just met the day before, like face to face, shaking my shoulders. We were all crying, hugging. This is pre-COVID. Everyone was just like, we were all brothers and sisters, and just like amazing. It didn't matter. You can't stress enough how amazing it was on there. And I joke and I make jokes about how I'm like SpongeBob in the Krusty Krab commercial on this thing. And I do it just as I was thinking. Scotty says he's going to make the t-shirt. I want to make a t-shirt of just like barely my shoulders and be like, I'm the shoulders or something, like have it where we can like maybe get together and be like, look, it's the shoulders. It's like, I'm just kidding. I won't take Scotty's moment, but like it was just, to be a part of that and stuff. Like we weren't doing it for this. A lot of people who look at this video, and I mean, David, or I don't know if it's, I think it's David on the As Father and Son thing. I don't know if it's David or Timothy, but they said they looked it up. Like this is like 1 or 2.
Number 1.
When you type, it's 1. Yeah, when you type it up, and I think even if you just Google it, it just like on YouTube for sure, it pops up. We weren't trying to do that. Scotty wasn't trying to do that.
Wasn't the goal.
But you have such a. It is. I'm telling you. I'm looking. You won't believe me. Because we do a podcast and stuff together, and so why would I want to make ruin the illusion? That's 100% genuine. All you non-believers out there, if you're probably not watching this, but it's so genuine.
Yeah.
And there is no Scotty Jayro is not a faker. I will say that. Scotty Jayro is 100% what you get. What you see is what you get, and what you see is a lot of tears and stuff. I cry just as much as Scotty. I'll tell you guys. I cry just as much. I just haven't been caught on.
He was wiping his eyes. If you watch it, he's doing this. He's like,
we're all like, well, you can hear you can't hear me because but when Palpatine, I was like, what?
Yeah,
what?
Perfect.
We're losing we all lost our collective minds. But
other thing.
I questioned Nick bringing me on, but thank you for letting me come on and get to pontificate and tell my buddy why I love him so much. And it's not just because we do this stuff together. It's because they were so kind.
And I agree with you. And again, watching your show, getting to know both of you over the internet and social media, and having you on this show, having conversations, messaging back and forth, that kind of stuff. Like, that's the thing in life. Like, you can tell when somebody's genuine. You know, most of us have pretty well-developed BS meters. You can tell when somebody's, not
right,
who they are, not genuine, whatever. And it's clear. And that's what I said and that's part of why, like, again, watching that video this afternoon, taking these screenshots, like, I got choked up at your emotions, somebody else's emotions. It's something I didn't get to go to
and experience
up a little bit because I could tell it's obvious it's real. There's no question it's not. I also got tickled watching the little moments of like hands over mouth where somebody's like, what the F-bomb drops and the other things like, again, that's real. Like, that's what you say when you're caught off guard. And again,
in the moment,
I speak French too, as I like to say, but it's one of those things like, there's no question that it's genuine, and there's nobody, if anybody wants to say you're doing it for views, they can come talk to me and I'll straighten them out. But that's not the point. But I love, and why I wanted to get Jerry in here just for a minute is because you were there and you got to see it from an outside perspective. And especially as this was somebody who was new to you. He wasn't your co-host yet. Y'all weren't doing this show.
Literally, you were just a kind person. Seriously. You were seriously like that. You talked about it like feeling a little like church. It felt like, and not to get too spiritual, but you like it seriously felt like it was meant to be.
Felt
and
more
you
like
guys were super kind
to me in a while.
For me as well, sir. I know. And by the way, that is Matt, I believe, from Blue Bantha Milk.
Matt. Okay. Well, look, one other thing before we kick Jerry out, Jerry, thank you.
Absolutely.
I love you.
No problem. I love you too, buddy.
Jerry,
let me come on and say this.
I got to say this with Jerry here. The weirdest things have happened since, though, this trailer, obviously, it came out. It's still getting comments and stuff to this day. We get a comment, at least 4 or 5 comments a day, probably about 7,000 views a day. And I'm not kidding.
We're still this still making money for us.
Still making money.
We're generating outrage views.
I'm not kidding when I say this, and not to, hopefully Disney won't catch me for this. This will pay for Celebration hotels for the next 3 years. I'm not joking when I say that. Literally, it's insane. So, with that being said, the craziest thing about this is that recently we had a guest named Scott Stenholm on, and he said he used to watch this to hype himself up to make a Star Wars affiliated show, Earth to Ned.
Earth to Ned, that episode,
to make sure he was hyped up. And one time, he was showing it, and a Lucasfilm guy was next to him. I don't know who the representative was. He goes, "Have y'all seen this yet?" He goes, "Oh yeah, all of us have seen it." And literally, I was like, I think like possibly JJ was like, "Wow, that's really cool."
That's it. That's the dream.
That's the dream.
Somebody at Lucasfilm knows my face.
Yes, and I'm just me cry.
I'm so excited to even just be a part of that, right? Like I was, the moment was great, but just I was so like hearing Scott talk about all this stuff. Shout out to our buddy Scott. Go check out Earth to Net if you haven't. We have to pull whenever we can because he was so kind to us. But just it absolutely is just mind-boggling. You think of yourself as just like, I'm just a person. We are just people, but it's like, okay, these people have seen Scotty for sure, and all that. And it's just, I'm honored to have been a part of the moment, honestly.
It's amazing. Truly. And I'll say this for both of you guys, and I'll say this right before, as I get ready to kick Jerry out of here.
It's all right.
If I can figure out a way to get to Anaheim for the next celebration, when I get to see all of you people in person, I'm going to do some crying too, because I'm going to be excited to connect with these people, these friends that I've made, and I can't wait for it. And I don't care what videos and trailers they drop. Maybe I'll get to have my Scotty moment too. But in the meantime, to connect with these friends, I don't care. And that's what I'm looking forward to so much.
Absolutely. It doesn't matter what the content is anymore. The thing I'm looking forward to most is seeing Scotty again in person, seeing Katie again in person, meeting Pete, other people in person. I still don't have a ticket. I need to get my ticket, but
I'm with you. So when that link drops, hit me up. Let's figure something out.
It's happening, and I'm only semi joking about kissing everyone full on the mouth like Bugs Bunny after we're all vaccinated. Okay,
I will ask in your car first to be able to go to celebration.
I'll ask first. Hey, if they get that railway system invented, that was posted the other day, we're all just going to ride the train to Anaheim. So
absolutely, Jerry.
Anyway, I'm out like a bullet train.
You, brother. Thank you for jumping in
here
guys. For a minute.
Love you, Scotty.
Night. Say mom, Jerry.
I mean, how great is that guy? And I thought it was important because, again, he was there. He got to see it from another perspective, your perspective, and he lived it. And I think that's really important. We're going to keep it moving. We've got a couple more to get to.
Perfect.
There's nothing that we're going to follow up that is this good, but these are still great moments. And that's my personal opinion. But your number 2 is Luke's reveal in Mando in the days that came after that. Talk about that for you, because I certainly have a feeling about this.
So this is fantastic. You'll love this. Of course, this is super recently, so it wasn't that crazy in terms of like having to recall the memory of it. I remember we had final exams at my school that week, and then that Friday is like our Christmas Friday. So like we have a Christmas party for all the kids. I'm a 7th grade homeroom teacher, so we had like a little Christmas party for them. It was fun. And besides the fact that I was up from 1 a.m. till 1 a.m. the next day, I actually have never done a 24-hour since like 3rd grade, and that was the first time in a while I did a full 24 hours, because I'll never forget watching it happen. It was an incredible moment. But like the coverage that day of everyone's just, not wanting to spoil it, and everyone not wanting to just, say exactly what happened on Twitter and on all social media. It was just, Nick, it was just so incredible. I remember you being in the chat that evening. We had done, I believe we did, it was streaming Star Wars like earlier that morning, and then we did it again that evening with Clayton Sandell. And like that whole day was such a good day. Like everything and everyone was happy. I watched it 3 times that day. I don't know. I remember crying, and then of course the Book of Boba Fett reveal after that. Like it was just so amazing. And you can say this too, like the amazing ideas that came out after that, what the potential could be. Mark Hamill was even there, R2-D2 showing up. I mean, that reveal was so perfect. It was so perfect, and it was so well done. And I don't know. For me, that was just one of those reveals that I think I'll remember that for the rest of my life. Like if I can look back at Star Wars, that's the one I'll remember for the rest of my life, sitting there with my friends at their house, watching on a projector and just having our minds just explode for real.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was wild. And for me, we had, as I talked about before, having those 8 weeks of guaranteed Mandalorian content every Friday, doing a recap show. My buddy Steve that I usually do the show with, we would get on, midday on Friday when he was off work, and we'd record, a breakdown and do our 5 questions and do our whole thing. And in fact, when you guys did the midday breakdown, we were recording at the same time. And so I had it on mute on my phone, trying to watch the chat to get an idea of what you were talking about while we were recording. And then I watched the one, like you said, that night with Clayton and that whole deal. And for me, like, it was Luke Skywalker. Like I had spent a bunch of time kind of theorizing who's going to show up, what's going to be the thing, what's going to be are we going to get Ezra? Are we going to get, whatever it was? I kind of, my money was on Ahsoka coming back. She decided, She said, I can't train him, and changed her mind and came back. That was where I thought it was going. But to get that Luke Skywalker and to be so gobsmacked by it, like I wasn't hung up on the CGI. I wasn't hung up on any of that.
Was I.
And I'm a hardcore R2D2 guy. So to get R2, like it was a big deal. And to be able to talk about it with my friends, because like you said, this is super recent. Like we had, established the different layers of this podcasting community. Yeah. And to listen to you guys talk about it, to listen to Pete talk about it for the next 3 weeks, everybody's show talked about some version of it, and to interact, whether it was on Twitter or wherever. And I love what Framey says right here. Neither of us wanted it to be Luke, but we both loved that it was. It was a great moment. I didn't think I wanted that, but it filled in that hole that we didn't think we had from Return of the Jedi to basically Last Jedi.
And it was
the in between. Where is the badass Luke Skywalker that we never got? This is where he was. This was him peak 5 years after Jedi.
The impact of this, Nick, is the most important part, though. Everyone now is going to have to find a way to top this. Like Paul Bettany, or it was Elizabeth Olsen. She was like, is there a Luke Skywalker moment? Right. She's like, there is one. Then, of course, they had the Snyder Cut thing recently. And he was like, is there a Luke Skywalker moment? And he said, there is one. This phrase, and Conan O'Brien tweeted about the other day. He says, I can't wait to the Luke Skywalker moment of my career, because like that moment will now be as important as number one. And we'll talk about number one in a second. But this moment right here,
it set a standard.
It set the standard by all means of like the season starting off, very much its own story, and it had become its own story till that point too. But like, there's a definite beginning and a definite end, and our number one's the definite beginning. But
Absolutely.
this right here had to have its way paved to get to this moment. Like it had to be perfectly set up from that first episode to get to this moment right here.
That's exactly right, and that's where we are. We're hitting our number one. And it's the reveal of Grogu.
Oh my God! I could
Mandalorian season 1, episode 1, or chapter 1, I guess.
You might get a reaction out of me right now. This moment, man. God, and not just when I say viral moment. You're right. What happened after in terms of internet sensation stuff is important, but also in terms of personally, this is when they took a show that you thought you knew everything about and absolutely change your entire perspective. And no one knew it was coming. No one saw a test screening of this. Nothing. I can tell you too.
Toys.
Nick, I was at the celebration panel when they showed 10 minutes of the first. Oh my God, he's here. Hold on, I'll talk about him in a second. I was at the celebration panel watching it when I'll never forget, there was some old man in front of me who was filming the panel, and a man in a suit took his phone from his hand. He says, I'm going to make you delete this off your phone right now. And I watched it happen. I watched the Disney SS straight up walk up in there and literally, and we're grabbing people's cameras and phones, making them delete it off their devices. And me watching this first 10 minutes, I was like, this is because they showed the first 10 minutes of that episode of when he arrived on Navarro. And like, you're watching the whole trend. I'm like, this is crazy. And so there's a bounty who's 50 years old. My brain's like Boba Fett. And for the longest time, I'm like, he's hunting down Boba Fett. It's going to be this guy versus Boba Fett the whole show. And then you're watching it. And I mean, literally, I hear my voice breaking. This moment right here changed everything I thought about Star Wars and flipped it on its head. It was the most perfect moment ever. And I never forget, like the next day people were already spoiling it because not everyone watched it that opening night. And it was very evident not everyone watched it. And I'll never forget telling people, y'all have to this is what does it. This is what's going to make Star Wars the next big thing again. And we're right. I mean, literally, like this.
There he is.
This to me is more important than the sequel trilogy. And it will always be now. I love the sequel trilogy, but this is what Star Wars needed, and no one knew it. And it was
nobody saw it coming.
Freaking perfect. It will never be better than that. I don't think it could ever. I could be wrong. Kenobi could blow me away, but this show was the one that I had the least expectation for, and then it became the version of Star Wars I've always wanted. Always.
And it's so, again, in the age that we live in, with social media, with Reddit, with leaks, with all the everything, they locked it down.
Oh man.
And to the point, and you hear this talked about on the Holo Chronicles a lot, like from a marketing standpoint, like they didn't sell toys. They could have sold the crap out of toys for that Christmas, and they didn't do it to preserve that viral moment, to preserve that wow for people. I remember watching it when it came on that first time I watched it. And it was, I think about in the movie Signs when Joaquin Phoenix is watching the news footage of Mexico, and he goes, "Oh!" Like that was me watching this movie. I mean, this show in this moment. Like I said, "Oh!" out loud because I was not prepared for a baby Yoda, as we called him, for the next, season and a half.
Oh my God!
It really was something, and it's a puppet. And of course, again, to hear all the anecdotal stories about Werner Herzog and like his reactions to the puppet, and even him in the show, I want to see the baby. Like I live for that moment.
Yeah,
it was such a big deal because you didn't see it coming, and that's where the best moments come from. It wasn't leaked on any level. There was nobody that knew. Like you said, the Disney SS, they grabbed those phones and went,
they did.
Not
today. And there was nothing in that day either that would have alluded to this. And I'll just never forget just the phone calls I had that night, because I had friends that watched it that morning. You're like, you got to watch The Mandalorian. It's going to change canon. I'm like, oh, well, how much can it change it? And it's my buddy Eric, and who I talked about earlier, and he's like, this is just going to be incredible. And like I said, that moment had to happen for that reveal to happen, because
absolutely
it changed. I mean, everyone who Baby Yoda was by the next 2 weeks, and it was viral and it was huge. People spoiled it the next day, and I remember blocking several people on Facebook because I'm like, you can't do that. It's messed up. People haven't had a chance to watch it, but it also built intrigue for people to watch it. And man, I don't know. That moment I would say was the Star Wars moment that might have changed my life, because it took everything I expected, completely subverted it, but not in the way of like, oh wow, that's a good twist. No, it was in the way of this is it. This is what Star Wars could be: a man and a child, and I mean mask on with the child. It's just so incredible. The storytelling is perfect, Nick.
It's really good, and the lasting impact of it, and the way it has changed and added to Star Wars. We talk all the time about people's entry into Star Wars and the ways they get connected. I've told this story multiple times, but my dad called me 2 weeks before Christmas, and he was like, "Your mom's been watching Mandalorian with me. She really loves Baby Yoda. I need you to get me a Baby Yoda and bring it to me so I can surprise her for Christmas. She wants a Baby Yoda." Like my mom has put up with Star Wars over the years because me and my dad but like she wasn't a Star Wars person.
Yeah.
But now she has a Baby Yoda that sits in her house that she's like, that's my Baby Yoda. Like she loves it. And it did that for a lot of people. It was, it's that moment where you go, I can't help it. Like Baby Yoda is cute. Paul Stanley agrees. Paul Stanley said that Grogu is the best thing since Revenge of the Sith.
I'll read his comments because I mean, him and I talk in this voice every now and then. So go to the first one so people get a visual representation.
Yes, absolutely.
Scotty, I love Grogu. Remember how loud you yelled? I can hear you from Gretna. Okay. And then the next one says, Grogu is the best thing since Revenge of the Sith. So,
Paul Stanley of Kiss himself recognizes the greatness of Grogu. Like, you can't argue with that.
No, this is one of my favorite things too. Not to sidetrack any of this, but the reveal had gotten so big that Gene Simmons was tweeting about it, and it's a video of Gene. He's filming the TV, and he goes, I hope you guys are watching The Mandalorian on Disney cable. It's just as good as the original Star Wars. And like the video
Disney
ends.
Cable.
Disney
That's
Cable.
Amazing.
That's a big joke between me and my buddy Eric. We both love Kiss. But
phenomenal.
dude. And you gotta think too. That's one other thing. That was the day Disney Plus dropped. Think about that.
That's right.
That's nuts. The first new show, original show on Disney Plus, the day it drops that Tuesday, and then by that Friday we had more of an answer to what's going on a little bit. It was just, and then okay, real quick. I'm sorry, Nick, but when Grogu lifted the Mudhorn, that also changed everything for me, because the show became a show about the Force, not just a show about a hunter and his kills. So,
well, and like you said, it dropped on the first day of the launch of the streaming platform. And to all the haters that do exist out there, how is that streaming platform doing right now? We just recently found out they're doing pretty well, and there's a lot more coming down the pipe. So it was something that they gambled on it, they won, and it's fantastic.
They keep winning.
All right, we have two. That was our number one. We have two more. We have a bonus. There was so much for this that we couldn't not have a bonus. So we're going to hit these real quick, and I'm going to get us out of here because I know you have to teach school tomorrow. Yeah. We've got a lot going on, but we have a couple of bonuses. The first one was yours, the mall reveal in Solo.
Oh, what can I say? This on the Grogu level to me was just so unexpected. I was just blown away. The music, the moment, Kira. I actually watched this Friday night. Katie had fell asleep early, and we're both watching it. And I turned the volume up, of course, when we got to this part, because this part was so good in theaters. I stood up. I think I might have yelled the F word as loud as I could. I think I yelled, "Oh, what?" Because that's the last thing I would have thought from Solo. I thought about Jabba or like Bulba, like someone really, oh, wow, that's cool. This right here is when I was like, the Lucasfilm knows what's going on, because this is the moment they were like, yep, we are letting our fans actually have to do their own research. No more spoon feeding, because this, to some people, makes zero sense. And I'm sure when they watched it, they were like, yeah, you got cut in half, right? No, there's two TV shows that have him in it, and this is taking place before one of the TV shows. The other TV show actually has his death in it. Like, there's just so much writing on this moment that Lucasfilm was just like, yeah, we'll put it in the hands of the fans, which is really, really weird. Really, really weird. And very unexpected on their part, but go them, because this was one of the best moments for me, because I didn't think it would. This was so unexpected.
Well, and it gave all of us who are the level of Star Wars fans that we are the opportunity to spend months explaining to all of our friends.
Oh, I love that.
Why is he? I thought he got cut in half in the Phantom Menace. Well, there's this whole other thing where he had spider legs and witches saved him, and it became a whole deal. And
then Mando's done that too, because Mando has had Bo-Katan and all these Ahsoka. Who are those people?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
that's right.
Show that everyone thinks you're too old enough to watch. Well, they got all the answers there, because it's some of the best Star Wars there is. So
it really is great. So that's an excellent bonus moment. And then I picked a bonus moment of my own that I wanted to throw in here. Something that hit me when I saw your list when you sent it to me the other day which also, again, shout out to the passion and creativity that you have. I messaged you on like Tuesday, and I was like, hey, here's I think what we're going to do. You know, if you send it to me like Friday or Saturday, that'll be great. And like 10 minutes later, you're like, here you go. Here's the list. Like, we're ready.
I know exactly what it is.
But what stood out to me is your list is very modern, for lack of a better phrase. Like, you know, we're talking about 2015 is really about as far back as it goes. Mm-hmm. Now, there are some factors in there. Social media has developed a lot in the last 6 years. The instantaneous nature of videos, leaks, viral videos have become even bigger. Now we have TikTok, we have all these other things. But for me, my bonus add-in moment was May 25th, 1977. Wow. And this is, and I'm sorry, apologies to Walter Cronkite for the screen cap that I added in here. But when Star Wars came out in 1977, I wasn't born yet, but you can go back and you can watch these videos. In fact, there's a link I'm going to put in the show notes afterwards. It's like a 1.5-minute video clip from a news station in San Diego somewhere. And it's guys in a truck with a camera driving past people lined up for this movie. And it's like a line at Celebration. Like, it goes completely around the block, and you've got people sitting. And that wasn't happening because they saw on social media, holy crap, this is a big deal, we should go check it out. Like, it was true word of mouth. It was true. The expectations for this movie were so low. All of that story and all of that canon, all that lore that we hear about Fox. And, you know, in one of those videos, Alan Ladd is talking about, well, we really didn't expect it to do too much. In fact, Alan Ladd in that video, in his voice, he sounds like Harrison Ford. But nobody was prepared for what this was going to become and the way it was going to blow up. And so you have like this shot in the top half of this picture at the Chinese theater, and just people on top of people piled up, stacked up, waiting to see it, waiting to be there. David is in the chat. He said it was everywhere. I remember the theme song getting played on local pop radio. This was one of those things. And the reason Walter Cronkite's in here, I need to explain this. One of the videos I watched getting ready for this was about May of 1977 and the impact of Star Wars. And Walter Cronkite is featured in this video, giving a little soundbite. And he basically says, and I'm not going to get the quote right, but he basically says, this came at a time after Vietnam when people were seeking positivity. We were in the in-between of the space race. Like, the moon landings had stopped. We finished that in like 72 or 73. That had stopped. We were right before the shuttle mission started to happen. Like, this brought a positivity and an anticipation to people that we hadn't had in this country coming out of all these difficult things. And so that drove part of the hype of it. Is it's exciting and it's new. And what if we could actually make this happen in real life? And eventually we do, with things like BB-8 and technology and whatever. But like, to hear somebody like Walter Cronkite, who, you know, I still go back sometimes because I'm a space nerd and will watch the Walter Cronkite footage of him talking about Apollo 11 landing on the moon because I just love it so much. And to hear him talking about Star Wars in a way and with a similar gravitas, that I'm going, this meant something. Like, it really was a big deal in a cultural moment, and how many things it changed going forward from that day in 1977 when they thought this may not work out.
Yeah. The crazy thing is, too, who was there that day? I mean, I've listened to several podcasts and interviews. Ridley Scott, James Cameron, people that were just up and coming saw that movie that day, and it changed everything for them, too. Another really important thing is you got to think what it did for pop culture then. I mean, some people were definitely around to remember to recall it, but like, you're watching there was only one talk show, is Johnny Carson. Now we all took Johnny Carson's job doing our own version of a talk show. And he had Mark Hamill on, and Mark Hamill's like, you know, he's bashful. His face is red. He's talking to literally Johnny Carson. I mean, this thing is as viral as it could have been, right? My uncle said he saw it the day it came out, he saw it 6 times. And then for that summer, he must have saw it 45 times because he lived near the theater and he worked at the theater. So like, you got to think, this was the movie that I would almost say, like you said, made viral moments happen. I mean, everyone saw this, from kids to adults, and it was important to everyone. And then it's the first movie, I would say, to have a really successful sequel besides The Godfather. Just like really successful. And then the third one rounded it out perfectly. And it was just, Nick, that's a beautiful choice, because this is where it all began. And we still kind of go back to this spot mentally, you know?
Without a doubt. It just, and again, like you said, I mean, here we are on a Sunday night talking about Star Wars, producing our own fake Johnny Carson on the internet, talking about something that's had this kind of impact on our life. And it's something that informs the things we collect, the things we love, the things we read. Like, it has this carryover that is really powerful. And it started there again on a day that they didn't have a lot of hope. And you go back and you read, you know, the stories about the making of, and, you know, how it got to where he couldn't sell it to any studios, and he was pushing, and Fox took a gamble on it. It's the best thing Fox has ever done by a long mile. But look what it turned into. Like, it is truly a global phenomenon. It's not just a nerd thing. And that's the other thing that we talk about a lot of times. Like,
then
you and I are the weird ones that talk and think about it as much as we do, because there's an entire segment of the world that's like, oh yeah, I love Star Wars.
Yes.
But they don't think about it on a daily basis, but they're still like, oh yeah, it means something. I saw it. It's whatever. And I think this is a great tag to finish off on. David, again, says it from his father and son. Star Wars has been going and staying viral for 44 years now. Like,
beautiful point, David.
Star Wars is viral in a lot of its natures. Like, it is what it is. It's something that hangs out and is perpetually there. And sometimes it's negative and we have to combat that negativity. But you know what? As we say in Star Wars, there's more of us. We can squash out that negativity. Please.
One more thing, really random tidbit. And for anyone that loves music, and I'm sure you like this album too, a month before this, a huge hit album came out. And I always felt that things come in threes, and I can't find the third one from 77, but Rumors by Fleetwood Mac came out, and that was the highest selling album of all time for like 25 years. So like that, you got to think there was a cultural change then that people are wanting new and different and bold things. And that album is a perfect album. And this movie is a perfect movie. And it's funny how those kind of things happen in terms of pop culture. Everyone had that record. Everyone.
Scotty, you don't know what you just said and how important that is, because as I have gone longer than I normally would on a Sunday night, you just bought me some bonus points with my wife, who I'm pretty sure who is watching, who is a hardcore Fleetwood Mac gal.
There we go.
And so you tied it all together. Laura, shout out to you and Fleetwood Mac and the connections with Star Wars. See, Scotty's looking out for both of us. Scotty, this has been a phenomenal conversation. I can't thank you enough for hanging out tonight. Please tell us before we get out of here where people can connect with you. I've got your Twitter handle up here on the screen. But what do you guys have coming up next on the Bob Madcast that we can look out for? Give us some plugs.
We've got a few things. We have that big card opening episode that we've been kind of hyping up. Hopefully that'll happen in the next 2 weeks. This week, I really don't know exactly what we got going on. I know Jerry's got some things in the works. Last week, we talked about Captain EO, and that got real weird. But we've got some fun things planned. Of course, you know us. We're always keeping it moving, keeping it going. Maybe even a live thing from Galaxy's Edge on Thursday. We'll figure that out. We'll figure that out. So with that being said, not much, Nick. I'm more looking forward to what you have going on. What's going on with you?
Well, thank you for asking. Look at you, like a pro, throwing a plug back the other way. I'm excited. We've got some exciting shows coming up in the next couple weeks. In fact, next Friday, no, not next Friday. I don't do the show on Friday. What am I talking about? Next Sunday. Next Friday, I hope to do Force Connect, but that's not really what this show is right now. Next Sunday night, go ahead and put a plug in there. The very first Star Wars podcast that I started listening to, gosh, I don't even know how many years ago, was Star Wars Minute. And I am super excited that Alex Robinson from Star Wars Minute is going to be my guest next Sunday night.
Brilliant.
I am super pumped about that. Literally the first Star Wars podcast I've listened to, my go-to podcast for years is Tony Kornheiser from PTI.
Okay.
I've listened to Kornheiser since I was in college. It's a whole other thing. But I found, and I don't know how I found it. I need to try and figure that out between now and next Sunday. But Alex Robinson and Alex and Pete from Star Wars Minute, I found that show, started listening. I love what they do. If you've not listened to Star Wars Minute, they take each Star Wars movie, and each episode of their podcast is a single minute of Star Wars. They start at, minute from 0 to 60 seconds of New Hope, and then from 1 to, minute 2. And they talk about it and they have guests. And it's again, my kind of nerdery. It's so fun. They've had on, they've had Paul Scheer, they've had Matt Gorley, they've had, Joseph Scrimshaw, all these different people that you hear about. And I'm like, oh, that's a podcaster that I've heard of and know about. So Alex is going to be my guest next week. I'm super excited to have him on. That's totally fun for me. The week after that, I've got Charles Boyd. Charles Boyd works for BioWare. He is kind of the head person for the Knights of the Old Republic online Star Wars video game. So we're going to get into some Star Wars video. I got some fun folks coming. So super tease. We didn't plan this ahead of time, but you set me up perfectly. So thank you for that. No, you're my boy, Scotty. You're my boy. Again, thank you to everyone who stayed with us. We went longer than we normally do tonight, but I think it was worth it. It was a great conversation, a lot of fun. To everybody that's watching, hang out, engage with us on Twitter, subscribe to us on YouTube if you haven't already. I want to say thank you to my lovely wife, Laura, to my girls who watched tonight, hanging out, letting Dad go out in the garage and talk about Star Wars on a Sunday night. Thanks to my parents who have been tuning in and getting me plugged into Star Wars, Dad. Thanks for, this is all your fault. Good job. And to everybody else, I hope you have a great week coming up, and may the Force be with you always.